We are back with the third episode of My Hero Academia Season 7. After the last two episodes saw the fight between America's top hero, Star and Stripe, against Tomura Shigaraki, this episode sees the students of 1A preparing for the oncoming conflict, as well as a huge reveal the anime has hinted at since Season 3. Before we begin, if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as it really helps out. My Hero Academia is owned by Kohei Horikoshi, Shueisha, and Studio Bones. Please support the official release when you can. This episode is titled Villain, and adapts from page 11 of chapter 335 to chapter 337 of the manga. The episode starts off in All For One's hideout. We see Shigaraki on the ground as his body is pretty much freaking itself out after his battle with Star. All For One says that while Star did a good amount of damage to Shigaraki's quirk factors, he just needs to wait a little bit longer till he's able to use them again. As Shigaraki's on the ground kinda just freaking out, Dabi asks All For One when they can start moving again, as Dabi, aka Toya Todoroki, wants to get revenge on his father Enji Todoroki as quickly as possible. All For One responds to this by saying that it's okay for everyone to wait a bit longer because All For One has something none of the other villains have: allies. We then cut to Hagakure. When this scene happened in the manga, it kind of freaked everyone out because it painted Hagakure as the traitor, when in reality that wasn't really the case, and it only seemed like that because Hagakure was the last page of that chapter and we didn't get any further context until a week later, but we'll get back to what's actually happening here in a bit. After that, we get a montage of the 1A students training and working together to hone their skills for the war against All For One and Shigaraki. They then take time to discuss the strategy and circumstances the villains might use, and how even though they've managed to almost corner Tomura Shigaraki, All For One has always evaded their grasp. We then cut back to the forest with Hagakure. What's actually happening here is Hagakure is looking at and eavesdropping on the actual traitor, which he's able to do pretty easily due to her being, invisible. It's then revealed that the person Hagakure is eavesdropping on is Yuga Aoyama and his parents. Aoyama's parents tell him how he must continue doing All For One's bidding if he doesn't want him and his family to die, just as he did when he leaked information about USJ during Season 1 and leaked the location of the training camp in Season 3. It's shown through brief flashbacks that Aoyama was actually born quirkless, just like Deku was before obtaining One For All and had no powers. Since Aoyama's parents wanted him to be able to chase his dreams like everyone else, this led to them seeking out a man who could freely give out quirks All For One. When All Might had beat All For One back in Season 3, Aoyama and his family thought it was finally over and they'd be free from All For One's control, but in the end they were wrong. That's when Deku shows up in the forest as well, completely shocked that someone he always considered a friend turned out to be working for the exact person he needs to take down. Aoyama's parents then grab him and run away, and Deku follows after them. Deku suddenly feels danger sense activate as Aoyama turns around and fires his naval laser at Deku. Deku prepares to dodge using One For All, but the laser is redirected by Hagakure, whose body has the ability to refract light due to her invisibility quirk. She asks Aoyama during his time with everyone, while he was in class with everyone, when he was even in the dorms with everyone, what exactly was he thinking? We then see Hagakure's quirk awakening as her face is revealed for the first time ever in the series. Deku is then shown constraining Aoyama and his parents using Black Whip as he holds back tears. Aoyama and his parents are brought before All Might, Nezu, and the rest of 1A for questioning. Aoyama's father says how they don't know anything and just do as they're told when they're told by All For One in order to stay alive. Aoyama says that while he was able to spend time being happy with everyone in 1A and even watching Deku, knowing that he was always lying to them pushed him deeper and deeper into despair, and that by nature, Yuga Aoyama is a villain. Deku asks that if he truly is a villain, why did Aoyama try to save Bakugo and Tokoyami during the training camp? Deku remembers the message Aoyama left for him back in Season 4 and realizes now that it was actually a cry for help. Deku tells Aoyama that just because he did something wrong once doesn't brand him as a villain forever. Deku reaches his hand out to Aoyama and tells him that he can still become a hero. Tsukauchi asks Aoyama's parents if it's possible for them to reach All For One, but they tell him that All For One goes to them, not the other way around. This is so even if they end up getting caught, Aoyama and his parents have no way of reaching All For One on their own. That's when Kaminari and Yaoyorozu realize that maybe, just maybe, Aoyama could act as a decoy to lure All For One out into the open. Deku then tells Aoyama once more that now is his chance to help everyone and still become a hero. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. The preview for next week's episode pretty much shows a direct continuation of where this episode leaves off, with Deku and the rest of 1A trying to convince the higher-ups that Aoyama isn't evil and will be of use to them. Overall, while the actual movement and animation during this episode wasn't as great as the first two, the individual shots themselves look really well this episode and surprisingly manga accurate. The voice acting as well is really great this week, especially with Aoyama, Deku, and Hagakure. I give this episode a 7 out of 10. But that is the end of my recap/review of this week's episode of My Hero Academia Season 7. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for sticking around, and that's all from me.